Okay, stage 3, drought update. Staff?
Good morning, Chair, Commissioners, Councilmember Sneddon. My name's Kelly Dyer. I'm the Water Supply Manager, and we'll be giving a brief drought update today. Starting with our drought status, our demand status, the water supply strategy, and the water supply status. Rainfall totals for the current water year, which started in September. Year to date, we have about 4 inches at Gibraltar. That's 25% of normal. Cachuma is at about 4 inches. That's 34% of normal. And Santa Barbara is about 2 inches, which is 21% of normal. That's normal in terms of this point in time in the year. So definitely not where we want to be in terms of rainfall and recovery from the drought. This chart has been updated by, this is put together by several federal agencies, and they have changed the category for our county. Santa Barbara County has gone from moderate to severe drought. As we know, our local conditions never really improved, and we've maintained a drought emergency throughout the last several years. Let's see, a 3-month outlook for precipitation is below normal. And our demand status, this shows our monthly water production. We had a 25% reduction in demands in the month of January compared to our 2013 usage. So that's roughly on par with what we would expect for this time of year, and it's also been very, very dry this year. So we're not surprised by the 25%. This chart shows our water sales revenue by month. This is an unaudited, unofficial chart, but just to give you a sense of what we're seeing right now, our revenues are coming in a little higher than what we had projected. We are seeing a little more usage in Tier 2 and Tier 3 than we originally projected with our modeling. And I think that's also due just to the dryness and the weather conditions. We really haven't had many showers or much rainfall to help reduce irrigation demands. Our water supply strategy, there's no change in status since the last time this was presented. The key here is we've got a projected shortage in 2020, and we'll be revisiting this at the end of the rainy season, which is usually around May timeframe, that we would bring this back to Water Commission and Council to come up with a plan to fill that gap in 2020.
Go back 1 second. Cachuma for year 8. You show no Cachuma after 2018.
Chair, that's correct. We are assuming continued dry conditions where we would not receive any additional inflows to Cachuma or Gibraltar. And so what that means is we would not receive an allocation from Cachuma.
Thank you.
It's very worst case, and we do have the medium blue color is carryover at Cachuma, so anything that's already been allocated, we would plan to carry over to future years.
Are we expecting to carry over Gibraltar water that long, or is that mostly tunnel inflows?
The Gibraltar water, that's mostly tunnel inflows in the future years. We have about 1,000 acre-feet of usable water in Gibraltar, although we still haven't seen the water quality improve to the point we would like it to be since that last storm on January 9th. So we're still waiting for it to be comparable with some of our other sources that we are drawing from right now. Gibraltar Reservoir storage is about 2,000 acre-feet, and we have really no change in status. We're not currently diverting, as I just said. Still waiting for our water quality to improve. We had a lot of and ash coming in with the inflows in January, so it hasn't quite settled out for us where we would like to see it.
I think we need to see about 10 inches of rain before we actually started to see some real inflows into the reservoir. It's still extremely dry back there. That inflow we got was highly unusual, and it was just kind of a relation to the burned watershed, and basically that downpour that Montecito saw on the other side just brought a slug of, unfortunately probably a lot more debris and sediment than it brought in water. And so we still have a very, very dry watershed, and so it will take a lot of water before we see real runoff.
This is a chart tracking Kachuma storage since it last spilled in May of 2011, and the black line is the last major drought in this area from 1986 to 1993 period, and the green line is the current drought. So you can see our Kachuma storage tracked really closely to the last drought. And then this drought has been more severe. We've had one more year of drought than we had before. We did get a little inflows last year into Kachuma, which helped, but it also did not end the drought. We continue to be in dry conditions this year. This is the time of year when we might see this kind of a spike or a bump up in storage, but it would take a significant amount of rainfall to do that. So we are planning for continued dry conditions since our window of opportunity is diminishing. Kachuma storage is at 75,000 acre feet, about 39% of capacity. We received about 600 acre feet of inflow in the January rain event. Our current year allocation is 40%, and our available supply in storage is about 7,000 acre feet. So of the 75,000 that's in the reservoir, only about 7,000 belongs to the city of Santa Barbara. It's a shared resource with a number of different accounts and other agencies that use the water. And if it remains dry through this spring, Kachuma Operation and Maintenance Board will be considering reinstalling the pilings for the emergency pumping facility. Those pilings would need to be installed before August of 2018, and the barge would need to be operational at Site 1 before summer of 2019. And I have some pictures that kind of explain the timing of that, why there's such a gap between the pilings are installed versus when the barge is operational. This is a chart prepared by, it was originally prepared by the county in terms of the different water accounts within the lake, and then COMB has taken that chart and extended it so we can see the lake level projections with the various accounts. It is a work in progress, so we did meet with COMB staff and had some comments. There may be some revisions to this chart, but I think it's a good illustration to show where the lake is going. So this elevation here is, sorry for the small print, you can't really read what it says, but this is the elevation when we would have to have the pilings installed, which is August of 2018. And then this next elevation here is where the barge would have to be operational by summer of 2019. And just some pictures. So there's our intake tower. Site 1 barge location is about 3,500 feet away. And then the Site 2 location is about 10,000 feet, a couple miles away from the intake tower. So we would do a phased approach again where we would just extend to Site 1 initially, and then if conditions remain dry and the lake levels continue to decline due to lack of precipitation, then we would move to Site 2. Some more pictures. This is our just a different angle looking upstream. So here's the Site 1 location. Here's the Site 2 location. And then over by the dam, this is Bradbury Dam, is where our imported water pipeline comes in. And this having this emergency pumping facility is critical for continued conveyance of imported water deliveries. So at one point we were talking about the temporary emergency pumping facility versus a secured pipeline. A secured pipeline would improve reliability operationally. It removes a lot of risk associated with when storms come in and having to have a crystal ball of removing the pipeline in time so that we don't have any damage to the facilities. But at this point in time, there's a short window of opportunity for installing the secured pipeline because we do need some water in the reservoir in order to install it. We can't really go in when it's just a mud pool. It's just too difficult with the equipment. So we are not able to get the materials, for the pipe materials in time. The lead time for the kind of pipe we would need has been extended because the manufacturing facility was in Houston, and after the hurricane, it flooded out the facility. So the lead time and the costs for the piping are making it infeasible for us to do a secured pipeline this year, but I think it's something we need to continue the discussion on so that if future opportunities become available, we could move forward with that.
Chairman. Michael, and then Barry.
Yeah, I just, who would be taking the lead on that? I mean, are they doing any kind of study on that permanent pipeline? Who's in charge of that?
Kachuma Operation and Maintenance Board is taking the lead. Yeah, they were working on a preliminary design at one point, and then would still need to go through the permitting process. Mm-hmm. But that's the agency that would take the lead on this.
Yeah, I'm thinking long term. That seems like it's getting more and more realistic having to put something like that in. So hopefully they'll continue to look at that and pursue it.
The challenge is there's a lot of strong opposition to it. The city of Lompoc and the San Ynez Water Conservation District had submitted letters to COMB, and I think Senator Jackson opposing any type of permanent pipeline put in the lake. So there's some hurdles there. I
mean, I'm hoping that this, if they do a study of some sort, they'll look at different options. I mean, what about coming over to, 154 and bringing it up to somewhere near the intake tower and then...
Their opposition to it is really interesting. They want our water left in the lake to add head to their water so it goes downstream to where they need it to go. And so that's the challenge. There's plenty of head in the lake. Even when all our water is gone from the lake, there's plenty of head for them to do their releases. But certainly having our water in there allows them to do higher velocities and do more targeted releases, in particular to the below Narrows or Lompoc area. So unfortunately, we think there's technical solutions to that as well, that potentially releasing our state water into the Lompoc groundwater basin to do an in-lieu transfer, but there hasn't been any desire to, on behalf of Lompoc, to talk about that or engage in that.
What kind of pipe is it that this factory in Houston makes?
I believe it's PVC, but we would COMB was looking at a thicker PVC pipe. We do have the pipe already ready to go for the temporary facility, but we would need a new, thicker pipe for the secured pipeline. And this is some pictures after our storm event last year when we received over 10 inches of over 10 inches of rain in one storm event. So you can see all the debris around here, which eventually settled out. But the reason why there's a window of opportunity to put the pilings in is because you need some think it's between 5 and 10 feet of water levels here in order for a barge to be able to get in and install the pilings. If the water line gets too low, it just turns into this marshy, muddy mess, and we're not able to go do any construction in there. So that's why the pilings would need to be installed this summer, even though we really don't need the barge and pumping until next summer.
Yeah, I'd like to say that these are renderings that we put together to help understand this, but unfortunately,
Real.
So for imported water, we continue to maximize delivery up to the city's capacity of about 280 acre feet per month. We have about 1,600 acre feet stored in Kachuma. That's our first priority water that we take out of Kachuma, and we've been holding off on using any of our Kachuma allocation or carryover, so that will be carried over to future years. And then we have about 1,000 acre feet in San Luis. We were really trying to draw that down in case there was a potential for spill at San Luis. That's looking less and less likely. Our DWR the initial allocation was 15%. That's actually been bumped up to 20% as of a couple weeks ago. Haven't heard any reports on whether that would increase. It's been pretty dry across the entire state. We are pursuing 1,500 acre feet of additional purchases this year, and the intent is to make sure that we can continue maximum deliveries in our pipeline, continue utilizing our full capacity that would get us through next year. Assuming our allocations remain as low as they do from DWR. And so we would be looking at 1,500 purchases next year in order to continue deliveries through 2019. If next year is dry, we'd be looking at about 2,000 acre feet of additional purchases to get us through 2020. We are in CCWA is the agency who leads those supplemental water purchase programs, and they have been talking with agencies north of the Delta that are basically non-project water. They have different water rights, and so they are farmers north of the Delta that would be willing to forego planting and sell their water rights to CCWA, which is beneficial for us because there's no water exchange component. So the 3,300 acre feet of water debt that we have would not go up with that type of a purchase. It would just be a financial payment, and it looks like it's ranging between around $300 and $400 an acre foot, which is a fairly good price for a purchase.
keeping in mind we still also have carriage losses to the Delta, so we probably lose about 30% of the water when we convey it through the Delta.
Right. I think the total cost preliminarily that we've seen is on the order of between $800,000 and $1 million for the purchase. We haven't entered into any agreements at this point, but that's well within the budget that we had for supplemental purchases, which was $1.5 million for this year. And our groundwater, no change in status. We have not turned on our wells, and we continue to exercise them regularly in case they need to be turned on.
And for DSAL, we have a special guest in the audience today. We have the chief operator for IDE Americas, Greg Paul, and then he's the one has the plant now in full production. He's doing a good job managing that. And the discussion we've been having lately is how do we get the public in there? We really had been talking about an open house, and so I think we're getting close. And I think Greg sees the vision now of getting people in there because things are really settling down in there. He's got a better handle for operations, and so we're tentatively looking maybe mid-April to have an open house on a Saturday, 10 to 2 kind of format. And then after that, we are working on structuring, times when we can have get the public in there, because we think that's a big part of it right now. We made this investment. People are kind of excited about it. It's unique. It's different. And so trying to get that opened up as soon as possible, and trying to make that, part of the transparency of what we do. As you probably received an email about it, we did not receive the water desalination grant. However, we're given 2 weeks to provide comments on that, and our comments are due tomorrow. And so we've been working feverishly. I can't give enough praise to Senator Jackson. She has, when she found out about this, she was pretty livid and set up a meeting with the director of DWR and was able to get us a little bit more time to provide comments, because they literally gave us feedback on why our proposal was marked down, and then our comments were due 2 days later, so we got at least an extra week, which is still tight. In a nutshell, they marked down our application because we were not planning to operate our plant continuously, which was an interesting comment. It was not a requirement of the grant. It's something they made up, which is my frustration with this, and I'm kind of curious how they're going to rate our comments when we resubmit it. But they said, "Oh, well, you're not operating it permanently." And we're like, "Well, where in here does it say we're planning to stand by this facility? We have a contract to be in operations." Now, defining operations for us is there could be years where it's zero production. If we have Kachuma and Gibraltar that are spilling, we'd want to use our least cost, least energy facilities. Certainly, if it's 2 years after it's spilling, we want to certainly bring our other supplies on. But that's exactly how we use state water. That's exactly how we use liquid groundwater. It's shut off now. It's not something we've abandoned. So it's really helping DWR understand water supply planning and how we continue to shift and use our different supplies depending on what the situation is. And so, because we don't believe just turning it on and leaving on for is an answer either. And certainly, I think we're going to do a better job in our comments back of explaining our future challenges as well. I mean, we did lay those out to them, but sticking some quantities to what potentially we could be talking about in loss of water due to climate change, due to environmental restraints at Kachuma and reductions in safe yield there, and then siltation. So explaining that, this is our plan in the next 5 to 10 years, but it's likely that it could be on and running more frequently as we go down but it was very frustrating that they added or changed the rules in this case on how they're evaluating our proposal. So that was the main reason they marked down our proposal. And I mean, when we missed it, it's literally by half a point in one case and 3 points on another one out of a total of like hundreds of points. So it was really kind of yes. Needless to say, I'm hopeful reason will come to bear when we resubmit our comments on this.
Okay. Did you want to talk about the fire credits?
Sure. So, I can do it. So one of the things I just wanted to bring to the attention of the Water Commission is certainly December was a very unusual month. We had a lot of voluntary and mandatory evacuation areas in the city, and we had some unusual use of water as it relates to our community. We had mini fire departments staged at people's properties, and in some cases defending those properties and using water. In some cases it was used from a fire hydrant, but in other cases they were using someone's garden hoses, things like that. And so we've had customers come forward asking for credits for water used by the fire department. And we believe, talked with our attorney's office, we believe that's legitimately a cost. I mean, we don't charge for fire or water that's used to put out a fire on anybody else's house. So it was defending, and it was being done as long as it was a fire professional who was using the water. It was being surgically used. What we're not providing credits for are the people who turned their sprinklers off and left during the mandatory evacuation. Turned their sprinklers on and left during a mandatory evacuation. That is certainly not surgical use of our water and actually puts the rest of the community at issue. And then we've had customers that, due to power outages, their controllers came on because they didn't replace the battery in the controller. Their controllers came on, and some reset to daily. Some, these controllers are all a little different. But then they had excessive water use in December, and they couldn't get back into their house. We, being with Prop 218, we cannot just cover those costs. They are real costs. We've told people you should probably reach out to your insurance company and file a claim with them if the water usage was excessive or high. But it's just not something that we can use ratepayer money. Certainly, if the issue, like it has grown in Ventura, because it was a much bigger crowd that had this problem, the Ventura City Council is stepping up with general fund money to subsidize those people's water bills. But just to make it clear to the Water Commission, that's not something we can do with water rates. So far, I think we've had about 40 people who have had the issue of excessive water use in December because they couldn't get back into their house. And then we have about 7 houses where firefighters actually used water from their hose from their side, their private water. So just giving a magnitude of it.
Okay. And now I would like to introduce Mariana Cruz. She's a water conservation specialist in our water conservation program, and she does a lot of work on public outreach. So she's here today to give our update on water conservation.
Hi, good morning.
Morning.
Chair Davis and members of the council. My name is Mariana Cruz, and I'm here today to present to you the recipient of the city's 2017 Water Hero Award. So this award highlights individuals, businesses, and organizations in our community that go above and beyond in their water conservation efforts and serve as an example of resource efficiency in our community. Past recipients include the Santa Barbara Botanic Gardens, Eucalyptus Hill HOA, Santa Barbara City College, the Santa Barbara Association of Realtors, the Tobes Group, and in 2017, Mission Linen Supply. Mission Linen has been a member of the Santa Barbara community since 1930, and we are pleased to announce that they've been awarded the 2017 Water Hero Award. They operate 44 locations throughout 5 states, and Santa Barbara is home to their company headquarters and 2 of their plants. They process approximately 140,000 pounds of laundry each week, which makes water a very important part of their daily operations. They're always looking for ways to improve their processes and save water at the same time. In 2017, Mission Linen has incorporated other methods to better use their water, to reuse more of their water, and to recycle more water. Some of those efforts include capturing water from their cooling towers, and they've also been able to reclaim 34% of their water on site. Some of the other changes have included working with their suppliers to adjust their water formulas, which have resulted in a significant reduction of their water usage and also has resulted in savings in other areas, including like salt that they use in their softeners on site. Next slide. Okay. Overall, these changes have resulted in 5 million gallons saved on site each year. So these are the changes that they made in 2017. And when you compare using water or the laundry that they do on site to individuals taking these items home, they're able to use 50% less water than a home washer. Next slide, thank you. When asked Mission Linen's president and CEO about their award, he said, "We are honored to have our efforts recognized by the city of Santa Barbara, and as we continue pursuing new and better ways to conserve our planet's valuable resources, we hope to inspire others to do the same." So we'd like to congratulate Mission Linen Supply for their award in 2017, and we look forward to naming our 2018 recipient at the end of this year. And I am available if you have any questions.
Oh, great. Thank you so much for that information. Comments from the board? Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's great to see Mission Linen getting recognized, too, because they are a homegrown company in that regard. Cool.
And that's all we have for today.
Great. Okay. Moving right along.